Welcome to Fried Green Left Wing Episode 5. I'm John, joined by Bill, Ashley, and Derek. 2 days after the January 6th attack on the Capitol building by Trump supporters, Trump now headed for impeachment again, this time for incitement of insurrection. Bill, let's start with you. Thoughts on the attack and latest impeachment?
Well, I think it just first, certainly Donald Trump is going to exceed all expectations to get impeached twice. I mean, nobody's done that before. It's a bigly deal, you know. Now, as to the more events happened than what happened Wednesday with the Capitol. First, you had last weekend. Was it last weekend when Trump made that telephone call to Georgia and tried to muscle the Secretary of State into overruling the election? And I'm torn as to how it got released, because some people believe that Trump might have thought it was a good idea to release it because everybody would love that phone call. Well, it didn't play that well. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad. And so he's flirting with legal trouble again there. But then he thought it was a good idea that his followers attack the Capitol. I mean, he actually went out and incited it. You got crazy people. You got some guy wearing horns, you know, with tattoos and bare chest, which is not impressive.
Oh, but that guy was with Antifa. Don't worry.
Yeah, what he said he was. He was a Kukanon, is what he was. But you know, the issue is that you had him, and you had Matthew Heimbach. You may not know the name, but he's an American
know the name.
Nazi.
Yeah.
He's been around here in Kentucky. Spouses Nazi beliefs. He was there with the guy with the horned hat.
Which is hilarious, because I think the real Nazis would have probably gassed him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's certainly genetically inferior, but ultimately, they all thought it was a good idea. Some guys wearing capes, you know, the Trump
banners as capes.
Yeah. What was that?
Cape, which reminds me, we'll come back to it. Thomas Massey thinks he has spidey sense, but anyway, he the whole thing was it just went to hell. I mean, it didn't play well at all. They invaded, they broke into, they crashed. There was even news today that they I won't use the S word. Yeah, well, they shit on the floor in the Capitol, and then tracked it through the Capitol building. You know, I mean,
they're apes.
This is truly special. And then you got that woman who got herself shot. You know, she tries to break through a glass where they were not going to let it. There were orders. Nobody comes in this room. And she breaks the glass, and she tries to go in wearing her outfits, her crazy costume. And they caught it. You know, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and she won a bullet. You know, you get a bullet.
And they're trying to martyrize her. Like they have been looking so hard for a martyr, and it's so sad because it's like, dude, you know, no one's gonna remember these people.
We may have one sad case.
They're criminals.
One sad case. This poor woman was carrying a "Don't Tread on Me" flag.
She certainly got tread on.
And what does she do? She falls down and gets trampled to death.
Right.
And here's what the real tragedy was. The people that she was
tread
with,
on me, Daddy.
It wasn't that they didn't read the sign. It wasn't that they didn't read the flag. Those people, they're freaking illiterate. They can't read the flag. That's all they can do.
I mean, does anyone expect them to know the history behind the flags that they carry?
They got no clue. They got no clue. But here's what really I think comes to. You want me to shut up by now? What comes down to the end of it? It didn't play well. It played exactly the opposite. The entire nation, except for maybe it's a few kooks, they're offended. I mean, it's like 9/11. They absolutely blew up, and they're trying to run away. They're trying to blame Antifa did it. You know, it was a setup job. You know, it just.
Yeah, they got tattoos for the incident.
Yeah, right. You got a state representative just got elected in West Virginia. Oh, by the way, they weren't wearing masks because you know why? Well, they think it was all the coronavirus is all a hoax, but they're not wearing masks. It means they're easily identified, which means the state representative from West Virginia that was there is now under arrest. The guy that there's one guy that wore his company's ID badge on his chest throughout. He got fired. There's a CEO of some corporation. He's suspended right now. They're getting arrested right and left. The guy's sitting in Nancy Pelosi's office,
holding her mail.
Yeah, holding her mail. He's identified. He's going to be arrested. Remember when they said "you loot, we shoot"? Well, let's go back to what I said about what they were doing on the floor in there. Apparently, they shit, we arrest. I don't know, but I mean,
well, they don't even do that. They just let them walk around like they're like children on a field trip.
Yeah, with the police literally saying, "Come in."
Yeah,
exactly. And the National Guard taking 3 hours to activate because the Pentagon doesn't want them to do it. Ultimately,
I was reading.
Finally, though, politically, it's a disaster for them. Just read that Lisa Murkowski has called. She's a Republican senator from Alaska. Has called upon Trump to resign. You've got congressmen saying they would vote to impeach. You've got Nancy Pelosi saying you got a choice. 25th Amendment, get him out of there. He resigns, or we're going to impeach him next week. It's just an absolute disaster for them. And well, hell, they earned it. They absolutely earned it. And I look forward to them enjoying more of the pain. I enjoy their pain.
I was reading an article on, I think it was Business Insider. I may have sent it to you. About, and I may be wrong about the source. I forget now, but it was basically just it was like kind of sort of like interviews with like a few different like UN officials and someone who works in Paris in kind of the same capacity as like the Capitol Police and the FBI and so on. And they are literally looking at it as a coup attempt. And
as it is.
Yeah, and it was absolutely. And talking about how they have in the case of the guy from Paris, he was talking about how he had trained with the U.S. Capitol Police, and that they have trained together and they can do each other's jobs basically, and that none of the protocol was followed. And they are all saying from their point of view that it seems like the police were absolutely complicit, and possibly people in the federal security forces and the Department of Defense.
Well, I mean, they were taking selfies with the guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How could they not have anticipated that was going to happen and not add more manpower there?
Did you all see the video of them chasing the one cop through the Capitol?
Yeah, the one black guy.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
There was one guy, it seemed the only video footage that I seen, it looked like he was trying to hold him off in a doorwell, and he was getting overwhelmed, and then he took off running, and he was letting them know where they were at, and it seemed like he led them to a specific room, to where all of a sudden they just stopped. As soon as he had his back up, they just held off. To me, I'm like, if I was that cop, I would have been furious. And I say furious because it's how did you I'm kind of curious. It's how do you know where everybody's at? You have eyes all around the building, you have cameras. Why was there only one man in that doorwell?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like either they never expected it to get that far out of hand, and they decided not to prepare. They decided not to prepare for it. That they were okay, it's not going to get that bad. They're just going to march up to the Capitol, and that's going to be the end of it. And they thought that that's what was going to happen, but that's not at all what happened.
Yeah, well, that doesn't even line up with the reality, to be honest.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, the thing is all this with all the stories that have come out and all the things they've tried to blame this on, and Dad, I think the morning before it happened, I was sending you screenshots of the shit that was popping up. So I lurk on these right wing websites. I watch because it's good to keep your enemies friends close, enemies closer, right?
Keep an eye on them.
So So I watch like the Donald.win parlor and stuff like that because these people are morons and they're braggarts and they will post their plans everywhere.
Mhm.
And I've been saying for months that the Donald in particular, because it's relatively unchecked and anonymous, that they are going to end up in the same situation that 8chan ended up in, where you've got people that are going out and basically performing acts of mass violence
Yeah.
just because of the stuff that's showing up on there. I mean, it's been a cesspool from the beginning, but in the last several weeks, I mean, they've been plotting this in the open.
Exactly. They want you to think that this is the act of a group of crazies who
Yeah.
wave the flags, the Confederate flags, et cetera, et cetera. But the complicity of Republican officials is thick. The Alabama Attorney General sponsored some of the activity. Okay,
Right.
You got that guy out of West Virginia I told you about earlier. The what I understand from the things I've been listening to from Democratic representatives, House members, and senators for that matter, the building is confusing. It's a maze. People don't know how to get around in there that have been in that building. Okay,
Yeah.
but these rioters found offices that they should not really truly have been able to easily find,
Yeah.
and there's some indication that it might have been insiders like other Republican congressmen or their staffers that let these people know how to get
Right.
inside. All right.
Or security.
Uh,
I mean, um, I think we really need to, and for a while now, like this is something that we've needed to pay attention to, but it's kind of a catch-22 because the people that should be paying attention to it and responding to it are these people. But we have a major problem with these these break off like right wing groups like the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters that are full of cops and they're full of military personnel and ex-military personnel.
Yeah.
And some of those people were at the riots. And
Yeah.
and that's
Very
we don't
staff
know
there.
well we don't know how many of them work for the Capitol Police.
Right.
We don't know how many of them work for the FBI. I mean these people are involved. And I mean the guy that got the cop that got killed,
Yeah.
I forget what his name was.
Sicknick.
Yeah. He's a fervent Trump supporter.
We got 5 people killed there. I mean, we got 4 at Benghazi. All right. We got 5 here, including that cop that was killed.
Right.
He got hit in the head with a fire extinguisher. All right. And so that's 5. So embassy in Benghazi, and we got this. There should be hearings. There should be people called to the carpet. Donald Trump is responsible. I think that they're talking about charging him with inciting that riot.
Right.
And I think that that's appropriate because he did. I mean, did you see by chance after Biden spoke what Trump did in that video?
Yeah.
He comes out and says, "Well, we know we lost it. That they stole this election. We know that
you're all very special.
You have to go home,
and we love you.
We love you."
Yeah, exactly. What I said?
I say that you're all very special and we love you.
Oh yeah, exactly. But you need to go home.
Yeah.
I understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then Ivanka Trump says something about all those American patriots should leave. Those people aren't patriots; they're terrorists.
They know exactly what they're doing with language. They absolutely do. They know what they're doing with the rhetoric, and that's what's scary.
Further proof that it was, totally planned. It's like, I mean, some of them had T-shirts made for the event. It's like, how long it takes to get something like that processed, mailed, shipped, and then given to everybody.
Yeah. Oh, but there is a photograph of one guy there who's wearing a T-shirt that says Camp Auschwitz, and on the back of it says staff. I mean, Jesus Christ, it couldn't be any more naked as to what they are.
I have not. So see here, my lovely thing situation is that, like, I I sleep with the bats now. So like with me being on third shift, like it's hard for me to find this information. I don't really have that much time. And like yesterday, whenever I got off work, actually this morning, I had somebody telling me about this and they were sending me links, and I was like trying to go through everything that I could, because like I've heard about all this, but like I haven't been able to look it up myself, and I'm like, Jesus, I'm like, I can't keep up. But like just with everything that's going on, like we've been talking about the language, and like most of the people that I work with have been avid Trump supporters. Honestly, still a lot of them still are to this day, but they say that they're not in line with what happened. And I can kind of understand what they're saying, but I'm like, what you're not understanding is that the rhetoric that has been spouted out that you've been laughing at. I'm like, we've been telling
Or
you that
repeating in a lot of cases.
not everybody in your group is fucking sane. Not everybody in here is sane. And whenever you get that, you get unsane people, you're giving them permission by laughing at it, by passing it off, like, oh, it's just a joke, it's just a joke.
Right.
You're reiterating to them that it's funny, and not only is it funny, but it's true. Which is why, like, we need, like, everybody wants to joke about PC culture and on how it's an issue and all this, but it's incidents like this that embolden that.
And cancel culture and shit like that. And it's like they literally tried to cancel democracy. I mean, I don't know how much more cancel culture you can get, but
humor can be very aggressive. All right. I mean, I can insult you. Hey, I'm just kidding. You know, I don't mean it. Or the other alternative is they can say what they're thinking, and well, I didn't mean it that way. Or you took it out of context. How many times have you heard that crap?
Right.
No.
It's gaslighting.
Well,
Gaslighting.
they know what they're saying. They mean to say it. They mean to have the impact of those words, and you know, the Proud Boys who have that T-shirt that says 6MWE, which means 6 million wasn't enough. They ain't kidding. They ain't kidding. They mean what they say.
Yeah, and like you brought up Bill about like people are like, oh, I didn't mean that. Like you're taking me out of context, and actually you called it for what it is. It's gaslighting. But like, it's also childish. It's childish because it's like, oh well, I didn't mean to make you upset. Like, but like at that same time, like if you're around a certain group of people and where they're like, oh yeah, right, you're like, then you're going to be emboldened by that. But it gives you that freedom to not look inside yourself to be like, oh no, I'm just being an asshole.
Right.
Like, and it's stupid.
Well, each of these statements are formulated, they're tailored specifically so that they can be retracted later, or that they can be, you know, excused in some way. And that's part of propaganda, and that's part of what, you know, they are encouraging, and they have been encouraging for years, these kinds of acts. But they're doing it in a way that is skirting the line between what it's basically, you know, in a very silver-tongued sort of manner. Where they're kind of skirting the line between what, you know, maybe I meant it, maybe I didn't. Or, you know, I said it this way, but it could have been taken this way. There's so much double meaning here.
They're testing the waters with it. When they say something that, like Rand Paul has said in the past, where he thought that property owners should be able to not serve anybody they didn't want to serve, let the market figure it out. That sounds like a racist, segregationist type statement.
Absolutely.
But he said he was taken out of context. They're testing the waters as to whether they can push it further or back off with, hey, just kidding. Yeah.
Exactly.
They meet, you know, it's totally probing to see the sensitivities.
Yeah.
They know their views are unacceptable. They know that their ideas are unacceptable, and they want to, in order to find out whether or not you are an ally or an enemy.
Exactly.
they will throw out
They're testing to see
you know
if
the
what
hook
you're
to see if you bite.
they're testing to see what is not unacceptable, or really how unacceptable it might be.
Hmm.
You know,
This is how white
maybe it's not as
supremacists make
bad as
friends.
people think, and we can expand upon it. You know,
And it's also on how you're slowly indoctrined too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
That way you can just lull them closer and closer to your death trap, and then like as they sink further and further in, like you automatically go to protect your instincts, like you automatically go into protective mode, and it causes emboldenment. It's
Well, you start with broad
simple.
generalizations. You start with broad generalizations, and you take advantage of things like cynicism and anger at the system and things like that. And
I see it
like
happening
the
on my
both
work
sides. Yeah, like the both sides thing. Is a hook.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what that is. Oh, both sides are bad. Oh, the government sucks. Oh, we just really need to overhaul everything because nothing's working for the people. And then you gradually get more specific with it. It's like it's no longer both sides, and they start really honing in on the people that are their targets. It's not it goes from being both sides in the government to, well, it's this particular group of people in the government, it's this particular group of people in society that's the problem. And they don't, a lot of times the people I think that are being indoctrinated don't really realize that they don't detect the shift in the narrative because it's slow and it's calculated. And the ones that do already had those feelings, they just weren't vocal about it.
Well, I mean,
it
part
happens
of the
by
reason
degrees. They don't. So they begin. Hitler didn't start killing and gassing Jews in 1933 when he took office.
No.
It was a gradual movement towards separation, segregation, indoctrinating people to commit that treatment. And finally, they started doing what they were doing in the 40s and to the end of the war. It's the boiling frog theory,
Right.
The frog
Well,
in the hot water doesn't realize
and
it's boiling until
at first he targeted a more, what they seemed to feel was a more socially acceptable group to target, and that was communists. But what they did was take that group. I mean, obviously, if you were a communist, you were going to get killed in the concentration camps, no doubt.
Right.
And they were the first ones to go. But what they did was they tied the communists to the Jews, and that was the problem. The global Jewish order, the global Jewry. When you hear
The
things like
Jewish
Bolshevik, you hear
Marxist.
things. Yeah, you hear things like communism. I mean, it's the same exact rhetoric that came out of Germany during the Weimar Republic and during the Nazi regime.
And that's why they hung so hard to attacking Mexicans or
Right.
the LGBTQ, because if we can't pick on them, we got nobody we can pick on.
Right.
So they want to preserve that ability to beat those people up, to blame them for any ills, whether they be Mexicans and they're rapists and criminals, or LGBTQ who are certainly they sent us. I mean, my God. It's just wrong. It's a man and woman getting married. It's never not two women.
I mean, I just find it
right.
I just find it funny that they have. I mean, they have followed the playbook and they've followed the progression. That happened in Germany almost to a T. Those were the exact same things that they attacked, and that the right wingers attacked in the Weimar Republic. The basically affronts to tradition. They actually had. I mean, I believe that they had a almost like, I forget what it was called, but during that time there was literally like a homosexual like research center there. The Weimar Republic was extremely liberal. They had social programs that we hadn't even thought of yet.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Bismarck,
as a result of Bismarck
and universal health care since Bismarck, and that was the 19th.
Yeah.
But you bring it fast forward to where we are right now, and we have the same basic application of social logic to manipulate people to hate people. And they and really the Aryan superior person back when, during the Hitler's era, that blonde, blue-eyed beast of a man, right? Well, you know what it is today? Today it's that redneck with a pickup truck and a gun.
Exactly. Waving the Confederate flag.
Superior, and he deserves to be in charge. And by the way, he's white.
But also, and the ones that we tend to forget, and that were also prevalent in Germany, are the upper middle class and wealthy frat boys, private school guys, the ones that we don't tend to talk about, but they're a lot of times their organizations tend to be centered on that. And that's come out recently. There have been a lot of fraternities at a lot of campuses suspended for some of the things that they've said and done, with regard to racism and just advocating for violence.
Those frat boys seem to identify with the rednecks, however. Okay, look at the
they have a common goal.
Don Jr. and his guns and his trophy hunting, and actually Donald Trump. How the hell can somebody from Eastern Kentucky, for instance, identify with gold toilet Donald Trump? I just don't.
Right, exactly. So hey, so not to change the subject, but I just want to I wore my my Iced Earth Memorial T-shirt today because RIP, because their career's over now, and I'm sorry, but their guitarist was at the riots, and I'm just like, John, buddy, why'd you do it? I mean, truly, not He was a fantastic guitarist. I mean, he was probably one of the best. He had
all the time.
Hell of a guitarist. He was up there with Yannick from Iron Maiden, and I saw that, and it's so funny because he looked like every other freaking redneck. And I'm surprised people actually recognized him. I truly am. But yeah. Dude's crazy. I mean, I'm surprised, but not surprised. John Schaefer is a crazy conspiracy theorist. He has done numerous interviews in the last several years.
Probably all the cocaine.
I don't know. I have no idea. There have been stories that have come out recently that apparently tie him to the KKK, and or at least former members to the KKK. And he is a member of the Oath Keepers. So
what's happening is the association with Donald Trump is a scarlet letter. I mean, I read today that his people that are leaving, seeking new jobs, are not being hired. They're actually being referenced as Hitler Youth. But
I know, but they are. That's exactly what it is. I mean, the same general dynamic.
Well, I heard something about they want all those people on no-fly lists, which I find that's hilarious.
That would be wonderful. But I've said, I may have said here, I don't recall. All
right, are we going to try to get Bill back at the? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, we're back. We're using the free version of Zoom if no one's noticed.
Hopefully, we'll remedy this soon.
I'll start whenever you're ready.
We're going.
We're going now.
All right.
We're live.
Well, as I recall, what I was saying was, I think I said to you guys before, there's going to come a time, not that far in the future, when you will not be able to find anybody who will admit that they supported Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are tainted. It's a stain, and it's a stench, and they're not going to want to be associated with Donald Trump any more than the German people after the war. You couldn't find many Nazis because, well, we didn't know what was going on. We never liked him anyway.
Right.
Well, they enthusiastically did support Hitler. Well, that's the same situation right here. And as I was telling you off the air there, that Trump is permanently suspended from Twitter. Parler's been warned by Apple, their platform, that if they don't moderate better, that they're going to lose their platform. L. Lynn Wood is suspended from Parler. It's tough to do if you're right, because he called for the execution of Mike Pence. Mike Pence protests. It's just, what can they do to resurrect themselves?
And
Because
I see this headline here that Trump was trying to call senators during the riots, trying to convince them to overturn the election.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So he was using it as leverage. He's just like,
Yeah.
okay, my people are in the Capitol. You're gonna do what I say. Like,
It's a failed coup. It's a
It
failed.
was.
How many times have you
Yeah,
seen?
absolutely.
How many times have you seen in history, in the Philippines or in Brazil or somewhere, where the military tries a coup and it falls apart, and the next thing you see is these people are arrested. You know.
that's what that was.
Yeah.
Hmm?
That's exactly what that was.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was a third world, attempt to overthrow a government.
So what happens when people overplay their hand and overestimate their popularity or their allure to the masses?
Right.
And right now, it is blowing up in their faces. I mean, you've got Iran, 1979, taking of the embassy. You've got Washington D.C., 2021, taking of the Capitol. This has truly offended people, and we got to keep that. Americans have short memories, but we got to keep that in there.
We do, but we also need to make sure that everyone who is associated with this and the politicians that are still up there that are basically saying, "Oh, well, we condemn this," and I was just trying to help, Lindsey Graham. These people need called out, and they need to be remembered for the things that they've said and done, because they are as responsible, if not more responsible, than Trump is. People like Ted Cruz, people like Rand Paul, people like, all of these politicians that have, for the better part of a decade or so, been stoking violence, have been talking about, just literally overthrowing the government whilst being in the government. Like, you caused this. You caused this.
Absolutely.
Ted Cruz is a perfect freaking example.
Look at the convulsions they're going through. Lindsey Graham is now being condemned because he did not line up directly behind Trump. He's being harassed through airports. Pence, of course, they're going to hang him because he didn't back up Trump. You've got Matt Gaetz saying, really, it wasn't our people. It was Antifa doing that.
Yeah.
Or the people that did it, who did it enthusiastically, are saying, well, we were set up by Antifa. Damn,
these people need punished, and they need punished with Trump, because they have been inciting it, and they are part of they are kind of the problem. Like, Trump is a symptom of the environment that they helped create.
Yeah.
And that guy with the big horn hat and everything, apparently he's a hireable voice actor.
Yes,
so
and jelly.
I'm sure someone will try to say that, oh, he was paid to be that.
Oh, they already did. They already tried to call him Antifa. And,
no, that figures.
And now he's going to say, well, I'm not going to get work because people are discriminating against me.
No, he's pissed off about it. He's already come out and said, he's not Antifa, and he's insulted by the fact that he's been called that.
Insulted by our association with him.
Yeah, I mean, but that's hilarious. Like, they, I'm upset, if nothing else, that not more is being done to remedy the fact that we have seditionists still in government.
Oh, yeah.
And they're still talking.
Yeah.
Well, like Ashley, you just brought up on how, like, the people are the problem.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. I've got to give it a re-listen. I've been, but I just got done listening to, oh crap, where did it go? It's Healing the Soul of America by Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
I know she ran for president.
Right.
And I know a lot of people had their issues with her. Now, me personally, I see myself aligning with her really well. Now, do I necessarily see her as being presidential? Probably not, but to have somebody in the to be like a higher up like cabinet pick, oh, definitely. There's a lot that she talks about, and in that book that I agree with. But she talks about on how like she brings up the fact that people don't think politics like we used to. We are not involved anymore. And she's exactly right. Like there's like, hell, I remember going to the polls for the 2016 election. I remember hearing these Trump supporters saying that there is no way for Trump to win. The establishment is not going to let Trump win.
Yeah.
What happened? He won. He won because people went out and voted.
Exactly.
He did not win the popular vote, but he won the votes. He won in the states that he needed to win, and he won. So that should have restored what they thought about the establishment in general. Now, don't get me wrong, it has its faults, but these people should have been emboldened by that. But instead, he has been sitting there, like once he got elected, he said there's like, oh, he started baiting for this rigged election as soon as he was elected.
Yeah.
And he's been pounding that into people's heads. So like, I have absolutely no surprise by what is going on now.
Yeah.
I am like, I've been hearing people talk about being surprised, and I'm like, why? Like
No.
this has been like before he even got elected the first time. It's like this has always been his rhetoric. Why are you surprised by it?
And I mean, the guys, the House and Senate members that were objecting to the electoral votes, you know, they got back in session at around 8 p.m. and I went to bed around 3 a.m. and they were still in session because they had to go through all their bullshit objections.
But they had to go through it. What I mean,
Oh, yeah.
They were punching their ticket, doing something they didn't want to do because they started that train and couldn't stop it. And that's what happened. Now, on the issue of Trump in 2016, Trump's the chihuahua that caught the bus. You know, he never
For real. That's a good analogy.
He didn't think he was going to win. And he didn't win it so much as Hillary lost it because she had all the baggage she did.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked her. She'd been very able. I'd like to see her be president, but she had baggage that was apart from her.
There were underlying issues.
Trump took that. He won. He's surprised. And really, nobody should be surprised. Nobody could have botched the job of president more if they'd actually tried to botch the job of president. Donald Trump is a cluster Trump. I mean, he absolutely just blew it throughout. Every move he made was the wrong move. It was like, you know, there's a fork in the road, and he took the wrong one every time.
Right.
Well, I mean, and why do we seem to fall into this pattern of political dynasties here in America, where the same names pop up every election?
Yeah, that needs to stop.
Trump is gone.
I think a lot of that has to do with the money that's inside of politics. And we're also, as being humans, we are very habitual creatures. We like to stick to what we know. We like to stick with brands that we know as far as consumers. And like I feel as if we're consuming our politics versus actively taking part in them. Yeah,
you're right. Absolutely. I mean,
the guy that was in the office with his boots up on the desk.
Yeah.
He benefited.
Good. I will admit today, would not admit it in 2016, but I did not like Hillary as a candidate, period. I did not vote Trump. I did vote third party, but I will say that there were certain things that I was optimistic about whenever it came to a Trump presidency. I was wrong in every single facet of that. Every single thing that I thought that he would do has never, not only did it not come true, but the things that I was like, it can't be that bad. No, it got that freaking bad.
Well, people forget that he ran on some unconventional policy platforms that were actually pretty
popular,
left wing. The student debt thing. There were quite a few things that he ran on And now we know he was just paying lip service to, a group of people that he wanted to get to vote for him.
Yes.
But he was an outsider at the time, and no one really knew because he had previously been a Democrat. So there were a lot of factors there that I think just lined up that got him to the point where he won the presidency.
Yeah.
The problem with Hillary was she was an establishment candidate. I think we would have had a much better chance if Bernie Sanders had won the nomination. People were angry because they felt like the DNC stole that from him. And I think that they were right to be angry. But I think people are ignoring the fact that there are underlying issues in this country right now that have been prevalent for quite some time that have gone ignored, primarily economic, that were not resolved during the Obama administration. And I think people felt that, there are people that have literally been treading water, that have been on the verge of drowning financially since the Great Recession. And this stuff almost always has its roots in economics. People feel abandoned. People are like, where is the help? What are we supposed to do? We can't function in a system that is fundamentally broken. And I think people felt like Hillary was going to be more of the same and that these problems were not going to be addressed. And so they went with the wild card.
Snake oil. They've got to stop falling for the snake oil.
Well, in order to get people to stop falling for the snake oil, we need to address the problems that are causing it. Yeah. People are desperate. They, think of it as someone who is, the American people as a collective, think of it as someone who is sick. They don't know what they have. Doctors are uninterested, or they're turning them away, or they can't figure it out. So they're going to people who are not qualified to diagnose them.
They're selling the snake oil.
Exactly.
The economic policy that was trickled down this veil for 4 decades is, if you just count back to Reagan, and they keep doing it over again, expecting a different result, because the next time they do it, they're going to do it right.
Right.
That is, yes. Some portion of what I believe is correct in terms of putting money in the hands of people rather than in banks and CEOs is that the stock market, not the economy, but at least it is still up. Why? Because people are spending money here that they're getting from the government in terms of stimulus or some other. I mean, my own business, I benefit from the fact that I usually in the springtime, people are happily coming in, saving their money for their divorce or adoption or whatever they pay because they got their tax refund. And I've experienced some joy recently. And the situation is, why? This is great. And I realized they just got their stimulus check,
Yeah.
Cut my taxes, honey. You're fucked.
Exactly. Refund came in, what a divorce.
Well, like, my thing is that like whenever it comes to the whole economic situation, like, first off, like, the total solution is above my pay rate, but however, like, the whole trickle down thing does not work.
No,
clearly.
It's been a scam from the get-go.
Yeah, and everybody's talking about, like, I know there's been people talking about, like, well, look at the stock market ever since Trump took office, and it's like, but where are the people at? Yeah. Like, whenever you have, let's go ahead and say the whole 1%ers that are up there with, with the wealth and everything, it's just kind of like, okay, they're the 1%. And it's like, so you've got 1% of the population with all the money. How are they continuously getting it? Like, it's seriously funneling into there. And
we're being robbed.
Yeah.
We've been robbed for years.
Like the whole, and then, like, Trump did come in, he ran on populist, a very populist campaign. But I think at the end of the day, we forgot who Trump was. And I say we, I'm not talking about us four, but I'm talking about we as a nation.
And he had help from big data too.
He did. He did.
So he knew what to say because it was based on data.
Well, he's an opportunist. He is a CEO of a company.
Right.
And we all know as normal civilians that they have a tendency to be sociopaths.
But how do you fuck
and-
up running a casino?
I'm not even going into that, John. Damn it. But you forget that, like, he's gonna use his leverage to the best of his ability to get him.
Right.
Like, so if that means lying to people, he's gonna do it if it benefits him. And people don't realize that, and and due to the fact of, like, because people 401ks went up, and the stock market went up, it gave people hope. And what he was saying gave them hope. He played into into every possible fear that you could play into, and he did it to a key. Like, he did it perfectly. And
he knew his base.
Yes, and
intimately.
Yeah, and he played into it, and they bought it. They ate it up, and they still are. And these people that are now turning their backs on him because of the situation that he created and that they know that they created, it's like, yet again, and I'm going to repeat it again, you emboldened it. Like, you perpetuated that problem.
Right.
And it's like, you didn't realize the damage that you were doing at the point in time. And you just need, like, we need to find a way to get past this.
Yeah. But they did, and that's the problem. They did realize the damage they were doing, and it's been a goal of certain people within the government for a long time. We have a faction of the GOP, if not all of the GOP, that has been trying to dismantle the federal government for decades, because the federal government has the ability. So not so much of the ability, but they are restricted in terms of how they're not allowed to discriminate against certain groups of people. They are supposed to be impartial in a lot of ways. And so in order to continue doing what they were doing before the Civil Rights Act, they found it best to try to transfer the power of the federal government to private industry, because private industry is allowed to discriminate, and to the states, because they think somehow that the states are going to be able to restore that. There are people that want the world to go back to what it was before the civil rights movement, and that was their plan to get there. You undermine trust in the federal government. You undermine trust in the institutions. You associate social programs with fraud, waste, and abuse, particularly by those of those people who fall into the groups that you are trying to demonize and cast out of society again. And you have the perfect recipe for what has happened.
When you play to the cheap seats on that fraud, waste, and abuse issue, for instance, Rand Paul in his annual talking about whatever the government might have given to a foreign government, we might have given to a foreign government or for foreign projects.
Right.
It plays to a simple-minded audience.
Yeah.
Foreign aid, for instance, is a lot cheaper than bombing them. Yeah. So think about that. And people don't think about that at all. And by the way, a lot of the things that Trump complained about on the $2,000 stimulus, because we're giving 25 million to Pakistan for gender studies. Well, guess what? His budget asked for that funding. His budget asked for the 40 million for the Kennedy Center. His budget asked for the foreign aid to Egypt.
Well, people don't know what an omnibus bill is.
Do what?
People don't know what an omnibus bill is, and they don't understand.
And they compared the two, and they conflated the two, and they totally blew it. But we have incurred over the past 4 years more debt than Obama did in 2, and Obama dealt with the Great Recession, and Trump came in with a great economy. His low unemployment, as I've said to you all before, his low unemployment record that he was proud of was only 1.2% lower than what Obama left.
And the jobs available for most people were of low quality.
But it's still, exactly. I mean, and by the way, this week, as of yesterday morning, we lost 140,000 jobs. Unemployment rate went up. The Trump depression.
And it's going to
will not
continue
end
because of
with
the
Trump.
seasonals.
Trump's term is going to end. The Trump depression will not. We've still got to deal with that. I like the idea of the universal basic income. I think it's a damn good idea because people with money spend it, generate activity, economy, tax dollars. You know, the velocity of the dollar for everyone spent $5 enters the economy. You know,
We need first and foremost, we need to disincentivize hoarding of money.
Yeah.
We need to make it expensive to do so by the upper class. We need to keep
they
it,
pretend the hoarding the money occurs because of taxes and people put it in offshore accounts. We need to do something that discourages that.
Yeah, like not allow them to do business here.
Germany did that. I mean, with their coronavirus bill that they signed, like with the the cruise line industry. Whenever they got their bailout, they were like, "Oh," and it's like, why can't we do something like that? And it's
there's this problem with the government. You know, they love to throw their, and particularly again the GOP. They are the poison pill. They love to throw their hands up and say, well, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. You know, look at the stimulus check, for instance. You know, one of the narratives that they used was, you know, they didn't want to pass the $2,000 stimulus check because it was going to go to, you know, people who didn't need it, the rich, the whatever. And it's like, you are legislators. That's your job. You can easily throw something in there that says, oh, well, this phases out at a certain income level. You know, it's not like you can't close those loopholes. But then when it's not something that they want to pass, they're like, there's nothing we can do about it. They just throw their hands up and say, we can't fix this.
I think somebody gets a check from the government, it's going to disincentivize them from being laborers. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the truth of the matter is,
we don't have enough jobs.
I mean,
not enough jobs to live off of.
Mechanization already.
No. I'm already disincentivized from being a laborer. I mean, if you're going to pay me $8 an hour, why do I want to work?
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, like people who say like, well, you know, like those are entry level jobs, blah, 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 blah.
No.
Whatever the hell. And it's like, you know what? It's like, even if they are, it's like, there's only so many people up at the top and people aren't willing to give up what it is that they need. And you can't just start creating jobs for nothing. Like you can't just create jobs inside of a company because that's how you end up with too many Chiefs, not enough Indians, so to speak. Shit, I don't really like that phrasing now all of a sudden. But either way, but with that, like if you go to another company and try, like you're starting all over again.
Yeah.
And it's just like people don't want to start over because they have stuff like their health benefits, they have their time off that they have that we get, that American citizens don't really hardly get any.
Like, speaking of healthcare and COVID recently, you know, when everyone was talking about universal healthcare, they were all upset about, you know, the potential to have death panels like they had in Canada. Well, now we have death panels here in America because of COVID. Yeah, it's like, oh, he looks like he's not going to make it. We're going to take his ventilator and give it to somebody who is going to make it.
Well, and even before COVID, it was like, oh, you have no insurance? Okay, well, sorry, bye.
And because those are isolated incidents, people in rural areas aren't seeing it as much.
Yeah.
Right.
People in rural hospitals aren't seeing it. So then you got doctors that are perpetuating the problem of, oh, it's not that big
and
of a deal.
And a lot of people in rural areas are on Medicaid.
And the idea that those death panels were going to kill grandma or grandpa. And the truth of the matter is, the next time, this past year, they thought, well, you know, grandma and grandpa should die for the economy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
The things that they were trying to use as scare tactics are happening here, and they've been happening here.
And they created it.
Exactly.
And people are still talking about bread lines, and yet we have them under the Trump administration that people like. It's like, how
empty shelves.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, how are you?
And somehow it's better that this stuff is being distributed by churches. I don't know. Like,
empty shelves happen under socialism.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's like it can literally happen in any situation. And a lot of our, distribution has gotten erupted countless numbers of times throughout this year. Different states, different laws, different regulations on COVID, all that stuff. And it's just like, but it's still happening.
Yeah.
So then there's a flaw in our system. Like,
yeah, you shouldn't be contemplating, what am I going to wipe my
It
ass
happens.
with if there's no fucking toilet paper?
It happens when things collapse, when supply chains collapse, when
Yeah.
governments collapse. A lot of the pictures that you saw from the Soviet Union of empty, store shelves and things like that, those were from after the collapse.
well, yeah,
Go back
and
to toilet paper for a second. What John was talking about. There are solutions to toilet paper. Now, when I was a kid, back in the old days, they had outhouses, and you had no toilet paper. You used bags from the grocery store,
Right.
or you use catalogs.
plastic bags don't work well.
You use magazines.
No.
You could do that. Except for one thing, man. Your bags are plastic, and your catalogs and your magazines are on your computer. And that make a hell of a mess of your keyboard.
Yeah.
I mean, getting back to what Derek just said, I mean, would you do the same thing as, when you're picking up dog shit? Would you just wrap your whole hand in the plastic bag?
Then we're going to start being Islamic. Which hand would you use and never eat with again?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm perfectly okay with, like, I've been telling, Autumn that I've been wanting a bidet now forever. So I'm just like, you know what? Like, let's do it.
Squeaky clean
And
asshole.
we still haven't because I'm lazy and
He's with a bidet. He's having a good time.
yeah. But I mean, like, the whole supply chain thing, like, we don't do anything about it. Like, hell, and Trump has, like, this is now 2 times on where Trump has dropped the ball because, like, and I say Trump, and it's not entirely his fault, but like, he could have stepped in. But
Sure,
like, whenever the hurricanes happened in Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
all of our what was it? Our syringes were coming from Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whenever those places got hit, and that was the only freaking place to get them, and it completely devastated everything for a while. God forbid that would have happened during COVID.
Right.
It's like,
truly.
and it kind of leads like, okay, where are we going to be at this time next year? Like, have we done anything about that? Which then coincides with people not being involved in politics. They don't know about this shit. I know, hell, I barely do. I feel like I research this stuff constantly, but a lot of times it seems like I'm just rehearing the same gag reel over and over the past 4 years.
That's because it was.
I chose that word carefully.
I mean, just and the other thing is think about how the treatment that certain states and certain like think about like Hurricane Sandy in New York. This was before Trump. We actually had and I believe Ted Cruz is one of the senators who was against giving them money to help with the emergency. They didn't want to give federal funding to them.
They wanted to withhold it to get what they wanted.
And it's just like there's a pattern of abusing and neglecting states and local localities by the GOP based on their politics or based on their perceived politics or their perceived moral failings, and like that is not something that should be okay or should be acceptable. That needs to go, and that happened with Puerto Rico.
And they did the same thing with the PPE in this crisis. They were withholding some of it for New York because they're blue states. Only give them red states or just holding the storage permanently. And also they were doing the same thing with vaccines. mean, that's
Yeah.
sick.
And there's no room for that rhetoric. Anyone who espouses it needs to go. That needs to be, our government needs to be purged of these people and this idea. I mean, there is no room for that in politics, in bipartisan politics or politics in general in this country.
For all the comparisons these people like to make with Trump and Republicans as the founding fathers and patriots, they're more like Joseph Stalin. They truly are.
Yeah.
And the Stalin that resulted in the Great Famine because he was selling grain overseas rather than feeding his people. That's what we got
Exactly.
here today.
That is what we have. And the party that, the party of, my freedom and my patriotism is the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, where do we go from here? Like, they keep talking about bipartisanship and moving past this. We're not going to move past this until these people are fucking gone. They need to be kicked out of office.
Well, I mean, it goes back to
they need to be not allowed to hold office again.
The whole political dynasties thing that I brought up earlier. It's like, I know they would have to vote on their own damn term limits, but something needs to be done that they're not there forever. I mean, look at Mitch McConnell.
Yeah. At the bare minimum right now, after what just happened, the politicians who are complicit, who are egging it on again, Ted Cruz, what Hawley or however the hell you pronounce his name, Matt Gaetz, even Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, he was a little more subtle, but he absolutely was complicit. The people that were complicit with the actions of Donald Trump that have led to this point absolutely need removed from office.
People praised Mitch McConnell for his speech because it was so impassioned.
No, it was not impassioned. It was bullshit.
You can't praise the SOB for one moment after 4 years of complicity to the crime. I mean, that's totally ridiculous.
No, and as far as Mitch McConnell's win in Kentucky, I still blame that, honest to God, just on another bad candidate.
They ran a centrist when they should have not done that, honestly.
Somebody that was trying to play both sides of the fence there.
That pissed me off more than anything.
Republicans aren't going to vote for someone who's semi-Republican when they have a Republican.
Now, on top of getting these people out, another law that I feel needs to change is the whole, being able to be inside of government and then turn around and turn lobbyist afterwards.
Lobbying should be illegal, period.
Yes. I have a major issue with that. That along
with
bribery. Yeah.
It really is.
I feel the same way about corporations being able to make their donations to their candidate as well.
We need to neuter Citizens United. We need to get rid of it.
Yeah. And I don't know on who, honestly, I've written our senator a couple times. Honestly, the last time I really wrote him was after the net neutrality thing, which is something that I'm hoping that with the election of Biden, that maybe we can bring that back to the table. I doubt it, but hopefully.
Yeah.
But
we got
after
about
that,
3 minutes,
I really
guys.
did lose a lot of faith. 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But with that, I'm really hoping that we can get some of this stuff figured out. But I really want to urge everybody to really write their senators whenever it comes to stuff like this. I know I need to figure out on who I can write. I haven't had time to do that yet, but this whole
we haven't had representation here for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, who can I write,
Yeah. And
that's going to listen.
Well, I mean, even
point.
if you call apparently, like I was saying, I've just got done reading that book, Healing the Soul of America. I'm going to bring it up probably 100 more times because, hey, I'm reading again, or listening anyway. But she talks about on how these senators, these governors, all of them, they only receive probably they receive 100 letters a week or 100 letters a day on any particular subject. They get formulated, all that stuff. She goes about it in a much deeper sense, but she basically says that you can make a difference, and if you get family, friends, other people that agree with you, it's really not that hard to get your point across. Now, whether they do it or not, who the hell knows? But she's like,
you can throw it out there.
She's like, follow through, send it to your local news agency. Just send it and go on.
Do a lot about it. Like I just read the letter to the editor. I write them all the time. We got to get.
Yeah, I've had 2 published already.
Outlet, you know, I do this at radio. I do the letters. Every outlet, and I argue with people all the time on the internet because it's just fun, you know. But
like it's sad because like you know, as someone who has seriously thought about contacting my congressman for veteran related issues, I don't know who to go to because of my last name. Like they're not gonna help me, and that's a problem. Like I feel like there's just no representation for a good part of the population of Kentucky specifically.
And it looks like we're going to run out of time.
Yep.
So thanks everybody for watching. Catch us next week.
Yep.